Week 11 of the NFL season, the Lions back in the win column after a dominant win in the NFC East over the Commanders. This week, they stay in the NFC East. They head to the worst sports city in America. I'm a New Yorker, so I get paid to say that. The city of brotherly love, Lions and Eagles. We once again bring in Mike Payton from A to Z Sports. Mike, this is a game that was all but a guarantee to be the NFC Championship game last year. Lions obviously did not hold up their end of the bargain, but nonetheless, almost a year later, going to be a real good one on Sunday. And the Lions are good again, which is great. The offense was flawless on Sunday. The defense came up with some big plays. Lions now back in first place here in the NFC North, thanks to those Eagles for beating Green Bay on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, that was a lot of help. And I got to say, Philly's not great as a sports city, but they got great food there, and there's a sandwich I had like
you can't deny a cheesesteak.
But let me tell you, this is the game that everybody wants to see. We've been talking about it, like you said, last year. We thought this would be the NFC Championship game. There was a chance it could have been a playoff game in 2023 as well, but Tampa Bay wound up ruining that. Like, this just seems like they've been compared to each other so much. Now we finally get to just put all the talk aside. Let's see who the better team is. I can't wait for this one.
I cannot wait. Took the words right out of my mouth. Before we talk about the Eagles, let's talk about the Lions offense. Obviously, such a hot topic of conversation this week. Dan Campbell sneakily takes over the play calling duties, and the offense was great. They didn't punt once. Jahmyr Gibbs with a couple touchdowns. Jameson Williams gets into the end zone. Dan Campbell's going to keep the play calling going Sunday in Philadelphia. What makes a coach decide to take over the play calling at this point in the season? I mean, we've all seen the offense and how it's operated, its inconsistencies, but Campbell had to feel that this was a necessary move.
Yeah, there was just too many problems at the end of the day. Everything that John Morton really set out to do with this offense, it just wasn't working. They weren't getting those deep balls. They weren't converting on third down. They were having trouble. And they had converted 1 3rd and 10 the entire season up until last week against Washington. They just couldn't do any of the things that they wanted to do. And it just seemed like the best thing that you could do was go back to basics. And after that Minnesota loss, you just felt it. It was ready. It was time. Dan Campbell needed to take over. We knew what he had done in 2021 when he took over for Anthony Lynn. That was a wild success. Let's see where things go at this point. I don't know if John Morton's out all the way. He might get the sheet back at some point in time, but right now Campbell calling plays, it just re-energizes what this team can do.
Absolutely, but definitely as a head coach, I mean, you have your eyes and ears in so many different parts of the game. You probably would not like to have to call plays. What do you think this signifies for John Morton's future potentially after the season, with it having not gone great for him through the first 9 weeks?
Yeah, I think the whole idea of this and the idea you get from Campbell is that he wants somebody who can do what Campbell wants to do on offense. Right. And I think maybe there was maybe a little bit of a disconnect between Campbell and Morton and the players in terms of how they wanted to install everything, in terms of how they wanted to implement it, put it on the field. It just was not working. I don't know if Morton is going to be here next year at this point. If you ask me right now, I would have to say that he's probably not, and that's just me personally guessing, just based off of the way that Campbell talks and the way that he is going about the situation. It just seems like it's not working out. They're not getting what they want out of Morton. They're not getting what Campbell wants, and Campbell is the only guy at this point who can give himself what he wants, and that's why he's the man right now. It's why he's calling the shots.
I mean, and it seems like they probably aren't on the same page, just going back to last week when Campbell talked in his press conference about how the communication hasn't been there, and Morton said the communication's been great. So obviously, something missing there. But what did the offense do on Sunday that they haven't been able to do? You mentioned converting on third downs, but what did they do differently that was able to, probably for the first time this season, for 4 quarters, looked like the offense from last year? It was just complete domination.
Yeah, they were able to do the things they wanted to do. Specifically, they could run the ball, and they were blocking well. Communication on offensive line was great. They kept Jared Goff clean all day. He only got pressured about 7 times, I think it was. And then they were able to get Jamison Williams involved, which is something that John Morton just couldn't do. And I think maybe John looked at JMO as if he was somebody who was just a deep ball guy, and that's the best you can get out of him. Whereas Campbell said, "Hey, let's throw him in some crossers here," and those worked. He did it 3 times in a row on one drive, and JMO wound up getting a touchdown on that one. I think he had 4 catches and 47 yards on that one drive alone, and then he had a big 41-yard catch later, giving him the opportunity to kind of show that he can be more of a yards after catch guy too, as well as just being on crossers. And he's not just a deep ball guy. And I think you saw him open up the offense a lot more. And it wasn't just St. Brown and Laporta's getting better, and it's just everything that the Lions want to do. Run the set up the pass. They did it. It was perfect.
Now looking ahead to Sunday, let's start with the injury report. Kerby Joseph didn't practice on Wednesday. Terrion Arnold now in concussion protocol. Who do you think at this point in the week, who's in, who's out, who's trending in hopefully the right direction? Because the Lions are going to need all hands on deck Sunday.
Well, Cable did say that Kerby Joseph was getting better. We don't really know what that means necessarily. If he practices on Thursday, that's huge for this team. I know there were some red flags for everybody. Aiden Hutchinson didn't practice on Wednesday. I wouldn't freak out about that at all. He was totally fine coming out of Sunday's game. I think there's, we'll figure out what the reason for that is at 4 o'clock Wednesday. And by the time you watch this video, you'll probably already know. But yeah, I think this week is big. They're going to get Malcolm Rodriguez back, I would think. And then DJ Reed is back at practice today. Marcus Davenport is back at practice. So this game is big, but I think when you're looking at Thanksgiving, we're talking about a potential complete 100% total strength team going up against the Green Bay Packers. I think it's going to be huge.
That's good news. Sunday, the Eagles, a 7-2 team, nowhere near as dominant as they were last year. Saquon Barkley is regressed to the mean to a certain extent, having a decent season, but nowhere near last year. Jalen Hurts has been fine, not what he was last season. A.J. Brown really nowhere to be found on that offense. Of course, you have Devonta Smith to worry about. I mean, it's a team that is still so explosive, but it also feels like a team that hasn't been able to get out of their own way a bunch, which is tough to say for an offense that is leading a 7-2 team. What do you see out of this Eagles offense specifically, and what can the Lions maybe take from some of the other defenses that have been able to hold them? I mean, the conditions weren't great at Lambeau on Monday, but the Packers defense played out of their minds.
Yeah, I think the real simple thing is here, this is a 7-2 team. They won the Super Bowl last year. I think they're a good team, but I think they're also a team that's benefited from a lot of other teams making mistakes and maybe some luck along the way too, which is fine. The Lions have that too. But I look at this offense and I see a team that if you can make them one-dimensional, you could take Saquon completely out of it. They can't survive. They're not the same team when you have to ask Jalen Hurts to do everything. And if you can keep pressure on him, he's going to be erratic. He's going to make throws that are not safe. He's going to try to do too much, which I think is the big thing. Like the Eagles have allowed 25 sacks this year, but only 12 of them are actually accounted to offensive linemen. The other ones are all on Hurts because he's trying to do too much. He's trying to get out of the pocket and try to make a play last longer, and he winds up getting sacked. So I think there's some opportunities. If you get one-on-ones, make sure you get him erratic, make sure you get him crazy, take Saquon out of the game, and make this team one-dimensional, and you're going to beat him.
Mike, we can't talk about the Eagles without talking about the tush push. Dan Campbell talked about it on Wednesday, said he doesn't want to take it out of the game. He doesn't want to keep taking different things out of the game. It feels like this season the issue with it hasn't been the play exactly. It's been how it's been officiated that is frustrating opposing teams and fan bases the most, because most times a player jumps and they don't call it. They don't know when to call forward progress on the play. The officials kind of, they seem to be very all over the place. What else did Campbell say about, the defense? Maybe the Lions go up against the tush push because it is only converting about 75% of the time this year, which is way below the average it's been. So, I mean, defenses are proving at times this year you can stop it on third, fourth, and short.
Yeah, I think the big thing that Campbell is talking about when it comes to the tush push is what the Eagles can do off of it. Like, they'll load up in tush push, it'll make it look like it's going to be that, and then they'll wind up throwing a pass or something. So they want to be totally aware and ready for whatever happens in that situation. And I'm sorry, man, my dog just walked in here. Hopefully that doesn't totally ruin everything.
No, you're good.
Anyways, they want to make sure that they are completely ready for these situations in which they could audible out of it and try something different. And if they do, well, then you got to catch them making a mistake. Essentially.
I mean, you're going to see it at some point Sunday. Whether it be a third and short, a fourth and short in a pivotal spot. We'll see how the Lions defense can handle an Eagles offense that hasn't been as good this season. But on the other side, a 180 from last year, the Eagles defense has been very good. A lot of players have taken a big step. And then, of course, we've talked so much about a Lions offense that will have a ton of momentum headed into Sunday. How do you see those two going head to head?
Well, I think the big thing is that the Eagles have struggled to find a pass rusher all year. They signed Zadarius Smith early in the season, and he retired. They traded for Jalen Phillips at the trade deadline. He had a really good game against the Packers. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. I think that they're going to want to get after Jared Goff immediately. So I'm curious to see if they try to go kind of that Minnesota route and try to attack from the center, attack from the middle. If they're able to do that and get pressure, that's going to cause some problems for sure. So the Lions are going to want to make sure that they are able to get the run going with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, kind of set up those play action passes and take that Eagles defensive line out of their rhythm, because their secondary is kind of struggling at the moment. It's not going as well as it has, or as it, the Eagles fans want it to be.
Sunday Night Football in Philadelphia. I mean, that is as hostile of an environment as you're going to get. But the Lions have played in arguably all of the most hostile environments this year. They went to Baltimore. They went to Kansas City. They went to Cincinnati. They get to experience it at home on the home side of things. How much does that help, do you think, at this point, that, it's nothing new going into a prime time, really tough environment on Sunday night when they've done it 3 times at least already this season?
Well, I think if you ask any of the Lions players or Dan Campbell or anybody on this staff, they love this moment. This is what they want. They want to go play football in games in areas that are just crazy and raucous, and like this is where they feel that real football is. Which is, when you have that mindset, it kind of demeans or dumbs down the noise a little bit, because you want it. You want the noise. You want the hardest challenge that you could possibly have. And I think that this just works for the Lions. I think that's why they're able to go to places like Baltimore and Kansas City and all that. And plus, Lions fans travel well. It's going to be interesting, though, to see how many Lions fans are in Philadelphia, because those Eagles fans, they don't really sell their tickets very much.
No. So, I mean, this could also be a big game down the stretch when you're looking at a tiebreaker for the 1 seed in the NFC right now. Eagles are 1, Lions are 3, also behind the Seahawks. But, at this point, the focus is definitely the NFC North, with Detroit back in that 1 spot. And, I keep looking at this division as Lions-Packers. Thanksgiving is going to be so big. You scoreboard watch the Packers every week. The Bears are right ahead of the Packers right now by percentage points, by half a game, however you want to look at it. The Bears, while ugly most weeks, are winning football games. Is there any concern right now that the Bears could be that surprise run to also a division title? I mean, the Lions will go to Chicago later in the season. I'm not convinced, but they're winning games, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, they have been a lot better than you would maybe expect them to be, but they have a really tough schedule coming up. They've got Minnesota this weekend, and I think that defense is pretty tough. We saw them against the Lions, what they were able to do. And then after that, they've got Philadelphia, Green Bay twice. They got San Francisco, they got Pittsburgh, and then they got Detroit again. So that's a really, really tough schedule to go through. I just don't know if I see the Bears coming out of that with a huge winning record and a playoff spot. It's a gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely don't, but I've been known to be wrong once or twice, and they are 6-3, which I absolutely did not see coming. We'll worry about the Bears when we cross that bridge. Mike, If the Lions win on Sunday night, if they get their second straight win over an NFC East opponent, what will this game look like from their perspective for them to go into Philadelphia and leave with a victory?
I think it's a huge game. It's a huge win. If the Lions are able to come out of this thing with a win over the Eagles, you're going to see them be the Super Bowl favorite. I mean, everybody is going to start looking at them like they're the real deal, which I think they are anyways. But them and Seattle, those are going to be the class of the NFC, and yeah, it's a big, huge game. And plus, you want to make sure you could separate in that NFC North field as much as you can. And this is a big week for basically everybody. The Vikings, Bears have to play each other. The Packers have a harder opponent. So the Packers have the Giants, but you never know.
Watch out for Jameis.
What's that?
Watch out for Jameis Winston, though. Packers, you never know.
Well, remember a few years ago, Tommy DeVito went in there and took care of business. So you never know what could happen with the Giants and Packers. But you want to make sure you create that separation as much as you possibly can.
All right, my favorite time. What do you got Sunday night? Lions are currently 2.5-point underdogs. Anytime I can get the Lions as an underdog, I'm going to do it no matter what. But what do you like on Sunday night? How do you see this game unfolding?
At the end of the day, I just think with Dan Campbell calling the Lions offense and this Lions defense actually being really good too, I see the Lions as the better team here. I think, as I mentioned, the Eagles have benefited from some mistakes and some luck. If the Lions go out there and don't make the mistakes and have luck on their side, they're going to walk out with a 24-21 win. I do think it'll be kind of a low-scoring thing, but I'm going 24-21 Lions win.
Any Lions win is good for the state of Michigan. Any Eagles loss is good for America. You heard it there first. Mike Payton, A to Z Sports, one of the most exciting games of the season, Lions-Eagles Sunday Night Football. Mike, we'll catch up with you next week before another NFC showdown against those New York Giants.
See you.